Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 8th, 2017 meeting of the City of Brentwood Planning and Zoning Commission. If you'll please join me at the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Sherry Bilderback.
Here.
Michael Daming.
Here.
Mark Pavaza.
Here.
Rebecca Jacobs.
Here.
Clint Lewis.
Here.
Jeff Moore.
Here.
Barb Moran.
Here.
Lisa Sherling.
Here.
Tom Shipley.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chairman. Is it?
I'm also here.
What's that?
Jennifer Hansen's also
Oh,
here.
Jennifer Anson, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nuremberger.
Right.
Any revisions to the October 11th, 2017 meeting minutes? Seeing none, they'll stand as approved by acclamation. We have one item under old business this evening. It's starting to be very old business. We've had it multiple meetings, and that is an application for a site plan review for the property located at 8212 Manchester to construct a temporary parking lot. Is the applicant here?
Yes, he is.
Okay, would you please step forward and we got Paula and sir, remind me your name?
Ken Aston.
Ken Aston,
The
okay.
la-
Okay, so Paula, I guess we've taken this up multiple meetings, so can you bring us up to speed on what's happened with the application since the last meeting?
At the last meeting, as I remember it, Mr. Damming, you had asked for some asphalt bids because we were having a very legitimate discussion on, is this going to be cost-effective for a temporary permit? So I went out and got several bids. I first called Simpson Material because I figured they'd know some of the best in the business up this way. And those bids should now be in front of you as part of the package.
Yes, we have
Well,
those, thank you.
as you can well imagine, they're up there pretty high. Even just doing a patching is going to be pretty expensive. Now, as I understand it, these range anywhere from $25,000 to $40,000, depending on if we are doing a patching or if we are doing a patching and overlay. It's my understanding from Mr. Aston, and he can correct me if I've got it, don't have it right, since he's standing right here, he'll be able to tell me, but he's not going to make that much money off of the rent of this property for that kind of dollars. I literally kind of feel like my hands are tied, but I believe the Public Works Director was going to weigh in on this with an opinion. I have not seen that yet, Lisa.
Okay.
Did you present that to these folks?
So hang on, just, so
Sure.
go ahead and so any other changes to the application since?
Just that if you are still recommending that this be done, then I may have to ask if we're allowed to take it on up to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay. And I know, Ms. Kirkemeyer, that last time we were here, we were dealing with the requirements of the Public Works Director. Has he weighed in any further?
So the Public Works Director and I met with Paula, I believe it was last Thursday, and then these bids came, or she had the bids present at the meeting, and we got them in your packets on Friday. So what I had asked for the Public Works Director was to comment on these various bids and very simply say, would any of these methods meet the minimum requirements for this parking lot? So he said any of them would, which again, the lowest bid and which would require the less scope of work was the bid for like $14,000 or something.
Okay.
So it does allow the patching. So again, he said even the one from Vernon Jones, well, don't know if I want to mention the name, but anyway,
Yeah.
there was a bid, you can look through it, that would be acceptable in terms of the method of repairing and fixing the parking lot. So, but I guess where we still left things was if, even though these new bids have been acquired, was the property owner willing to do any of these, or was it just information to show that here's some bids that we secure? So I guess I still don't know if even the one bid that I pointed out at this bid package, if the property owner is willing to do that, but it would be acceptable by the Public Works Director.
Because last meeting, I recall the director's position was that a 2-inch overlay was required. So he is no longer requiring that.
The compromise would be to accept that method, which is the lowest bid out of that one. And so it is really kind of a patching, but it is cutting out the worst part of the parking lot and so forth. It's not just applying patches where it needs to be, but it would be correcting it by, actually removing, cutting it, and then putting the asphalt where it needs to be so it won't break up.
Okay, so, Paul, so we're looking at this option one on this, this Vernon Jones bid.
Yes.
Would that be, are you amenable to doing that?
The 14,000
200.
patching and sealing, I'm willing to do, yes.
Okay, good. And you're still willing to do all of the other conditions that we had talked about at the site plan meeting?
Which I think was the buffer along Manchester Road, which I think, what was the requirement, 15 feet or 10?
Yes, it was 15 feet because they still have a concern about that Manchester Road may be widened through here, so they
Yeah.
wanted to be sure there was plenty for that.
I'm okay with that. My concern about the curb cuts, though, right now, it's one continuous curb cut, as you all know. And when I redevelop this property for either some sort of retail use or restaurant use, I know that any user is going to require 2 curb cuts. And so when we went to the Missouri State Highway Department for their permission, we wanted to be able to retain the right to maintain at a future date one of the curb cuts. And I don't want to give that up now because I feel like I've given it up, and they can very easily say no. And that, without 2 curb cuts for that, trying to get a retail user and a restaurant user in there is going to be very difficult. Those would be requirements, even for me to market it to people. Those types of users will want 2 curb cuts, and so I'm willing to close the eastern curb cut down now, but I'd like the ability to retain an option to open it up later.
You would have that option in the context of a separate application to the city.
Yeah, but not with the state highway department necessarily.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, the highway department, if you're putting in a restaurant or retail use in there, as long as it's not messing with a possible turn lane in there, which they're in the process of redesigning all of that now.
Even after they redesign everything?
Well, that's one of those things we'll have to go talk to the highway department, but that wouldn't be on Brentwood.
So here are the conditions, and let's see if we're on the same page, because the commission's taken this up at multiple meetings. One would be the removal of that future access on the curb cut, so you only have 1 curb cut at this time. Now, if a second access is warranted and desired, you can always apply through the city for that. A 15-inch front yard landscape buffer.
15 foot.
15 foot, sorry. The commission was willing to waive the 5-foot side and rear yard landscape buffers. The new grass area would be graded and seeded. MSD permit would be required. And instead of the 2-inch overlay, the Public Works Director is amenable to that option we just discussed. And you have an engineer seal on your site plan.
Yeah. That could be-
You're amenable to all of those conditions?
Can I speak to my engineer in private for 1 second?
Sure.
Okay. I just have a question.
What is that TV show when it goes do 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 do?
Jeopardy.
Yeah, I could keep doing that if you'd like.
We'd like that.
Do 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 do. That's all I got.
You're gonna go viral on YouTube tonight.
I could start singing.
How many wages? About 14,000.
Are we good?
We're good.
All right. Questions from commissioners for this applicant?
None here.
Questions or comments from the audience? Chair will entertain a motion.
Okay.
Hanson?
Yeah, I'll move that that we approve the applicant's application as, let me find it first. As identified today with the conditions laid out by Ms. Corkenmeyer minus the 2-inch overlay, which we can now do with the director's, I guess, compromise of the $14,200 bid. That was a mouthful.
No, it's fine.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further comments? Roll call, please.
Sherry Bilderback,
Yes.
Jemmer Hansen,
Yes.
Rebecca Jacobs,
Yes.
Clint Lewis,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Parma Land,
Yes.
John Number is yes, Lisa Sherling,
Yes.
Tom Schifley.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you for compromising.
No,
Working
thank you.
with-
I'll vote yes as
Thank you
well.
very much. Thank you.
I'll vote yes as well.
Get started on it
My
right away.
proposal.
Good deal.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you have to go to the Board of Aldermen, and Ms. Kirkmeyer will walk you through that.
I didn't see you.
Don't ever think they should start right now.
Great, don't break ground.
All right, we have two items under new business this evening. First item is an application for site plan architectural elevation review for an office building at 2914 South Brentwood Boulevard. Is the applicant here? Will you please step forward, sir, introduce yourself and your application?
My name is Chris Himes, and this is for 2914 South Brentwood Boulevard.
Okay.
It's a building I purchased, and it's a little dated, and it's kind of set up as a two-tenant building, and I want to turn it into a single-tenant building for myself to occupy.
Ms. Kirkmeyer, staff report?
Yes, so again, the request is just for architectural review. It does require changes for a few sides of the building. Not much will be changing the elevation on the north side of the building. The major improvement, though, is to the front elevation, or the one that faces South Brentwood Boulevard. As the applicant or petitioner has explained, it's going from a two-tenancy building to a one-tenant building. And when we went out there to look at the other changes, everything really meets the site plan requirements. The only thing is when we would go, when the building gets done and we would go back to do a final inspection and issue the occupancy and the business license for this particular business, we would still address the site plan things that would not be non-compliant, and we've mentioned that to the owner. So, the striping of the striping of the parking spaces would still be required. And we also had mentioned, and we included it in the staff report as well, I don't know that this particular business is going to need an outdoor trash dumpster, but if they would, it would have to be inside of an enclosure. And so those things, again, are things we typically just pick up as part of our final inspection and occupancy permit inspection. So there really is no changes to the site plan requested. In fact, they are adding, some landscaping to the front, which will be a nice addition. There's no landscaping there now. It's very limited with that area, the size of the area, though, and again, because of its proximity right to South Brentwood Boulevard. So the major things really to point out is the additional landscaping that they're not even really required to do, and then just the facelift all around the building, so.
I think the design looks good, and I think the space that you have to work with is relatively limited, so. But let's open it up to the commission for questions. Ms. Bilderbeck?
I don't have a question, I like it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience who would like to address the commission on this application? You gentlemen back there want to talk to us? Any further questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Moran.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a building next door to you that's having some renovation work done, right? There's a building right next door to this, or very close to this, having
Two
some
doors
renovation-
north?
2 doors down,
Yes, sir.
right? Right, so when they came in, one of the neighbours came in and said, are you going to make this building any taller? Because that's going to be a concern. And they said, no, we're just fixing the outside. Is this building taller?
I believe it's 18 inches, maybe 2 feet taller in the front only.
So is that just like a fairly thin,
Yes, sir. The
thin
roof line
veneer?
is still the same.
Okay.
The roof pitch and level is still the same, but currently, the roof comes straight out over the front wall in cantilevers, and we're gonna tear that whole cantilever off, and we're gonna go up about 2 feet, I think. But from the back, it's still going to look the same.
Yeah, I don't imagine that'll be a concern. I don't think that'll be a concern, so thanks for answering the question.
Any further questions from commissioners? Chair will entertain a motion.
Do we have comments from the audience? We did that already? Okay. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend approval of this application as submitted to the Board of Aldermen for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Chair Bilderbeck,
Yes.
Jennifer Hansen,
Yes.
Mark Pagazza,
Yes.
Becca Jacobs,
Yes.
Mike Lewis,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Paul Moran,
Yes.
John Number is yes, Lisa Shirley,
Yes.
Tom Shipley.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nuremberger.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and welcome to the city, and Ms. Kirkmeyer will walk you through the next step. Next item on the agenda is a application for a site plan amendment for the Chick-fil-A located at 8590 Eager. Is the applicant here? Will you please step forward, sir, and introduce yourself and your application.
Good evening, I'm Mark McCarty, I'm with Chick-fil-A in Brentwood, and we're submitting an application to enhance the patio area on the opposite side of our building. We have a small patio on the left side, and we're going to take a small landscaping area, hopefully make a patio there and move that landscaping to alternate places on the property.
Ms. Kirkmeyer, staff report?
So, again, what's proposed is just a minor amendment to the site plan, and as was mentioned by the petitioner, it's to create a second outdoor patio area, 16 by 28 in size, so it's still relatively small, would probably suit about 3, maybe no more than 4 tables, I would assume. And then the idea is to where the landscaping is at currently for the second outdoor seating area, it would be relocated to a different site, or a different place on the site, and that would be by the restaurant's entrance there, as you pull into their main entrance on the right-hand side or the east side of their sign. So the reason why this again was brought before you and is a site plan amendment is because Chick-fil-A, when it was built, also received a conditional use permit because of the drive-through. So that's why this one's treated a little bit different than the petition before this. So it does have to come through as an amendment to the site plan. And the only thing really I think that's worthy of pointing out is that when the Chick-fil-A was built there, they did receive that bonus in terms of density coverage. And so I wanted to make sure that the commissioners felt like everything was still in keeping to be able to allow that bonus coverage. And what it says is that the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Aldermen can consider a higher up to 15% additional bonus density coverage if there's other amenities that add to the site plan, and that would be things like, you know, very good landscaping and irrigation system, and in fact, even amenities like outdoor seating. So to me, it's a trade up, it's not a trade down, it's not even an even trade. So, that's, again, how, I reviewed it with the original site plan. And then the only other question I thought you might have is I actually placed by your seats tonight the original landscape plan. And I wanted you to take a look at that. We actually went out then to just inspect how the landscape treatment has been going, because it's been about 2 years, I guess, since the store's been there. And there were just a few places where there's just a few plants that are missing, but otherwise they've kept to the landscape plan and have maintained it for the past 2 years. So they have a great record with that. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of landscaping that came along with the Chick-fil-A store originally when it was built, so.
Yeah, I agree. This strikes me as a win-win of an application. And we certainly appreciate you being in the city and your presence here. Questions from commissioners? Ms. Bilderbeck?
So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this, and the original landscape plan that was at our seat, I haven't looked at it yet because, but I looked at it back when the original site was approved, but I don't remember anymore because it was a long time ago. So we're going to take out landscaping and move some trees to an existing landscaping space, and we're going to put, what, concrete down underneath the...
Yeah, so if you've been to the restaurant, if you're looking at the restaurant to the right side is kind of a seating area. There's a small landscape patio that she mentioned, and it doesn't, well, I guess maybe there's one tree, but it's just a lot of small bushes, et cetera, but we have more area kind of to the left of that and continuing around, so they're just gonna really transplant everything. And we're trying to have patio or an additional seating area to the left of the door versus just the right where it exists currently, so we can expand.
So we're not
capacity.
like taking out parking spaces and putting in more
No,
landscaping? So
it's just a kind of a rectangular space that has some landscaping in it currently that they'll pour the patio
So
into.
essentially what we're doing is we're paving an area that's landscaping now and just putting more plant materials in an existing landscaping area.
Correct, yes.
So we're gonna have more impervious surface on the project?
Correct.
Has MSD weighed in on that?
So this would not require MSD. We're not even going to issue a building permit on this. The area is so marginal, and really what's happening is it's just going to be finished concrete work. So again, there'll be no building permit, no MSD review. We're talking about a 16 by 28 area.
So what does that make the site coverage? What does it increase from 77 to what? Because it's concrete, so you can't count it as landscaping for site coverage purposes. I mean, I know there's that whole bonus thing, but it's still concrete.
I mean, it would be less than a 1%. I don't know. I mean, I could, I don't know
Well,
exactly what it is, but.
Because right now it's 77%, and with the bonus site coverage, 65 plus 15 is 80. So I want to know for sure that it's below 80% with this new area.
So I can calculate it, but I'm sure it is. But yeah, I can figure it out, so.
Yeah, I mean, that would seem to be important to make sure that we're complying with what the bonus coverage is.
It's yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And the other thing is, when you start moving landscaping around, I mean, these might die. So, I want to have a little bit more assurance that if they die, they're going to be replaced.
Which they will be. I mean, hopefully you all know us and our reputation. It is not that we are going to have a property that will not be acceptable. It's not our service model, nor is it our building model or what we maintain, so.
Well, I'm sure if they die, you're going to take them out, but I want to
Okay.
know that they're going to be replaced.
I can guarantee you that the owner will replace them, so. And Chick-fil-A comes in corporate-wide annually and does site visits with us as well, and is constantly internally and externally, meaning and outside of the building, making sure that we're meeting the requirements for them to uphold the brand as well, because we're held to that, so.
So another thing that I noticed is catmint plants, and I actually am familiar with that. And they, like all mint, they grow like weeds and they spread.
Okay.
So I'm questioning why you guys are gonna put catmint in there and exactly where it's gonna go. You said like in the lawn area? I mean, I'm afraid, I know exactly what it looks like, and
Right.
it's gonna look like a bunch of giant weeds, even though I like catmint personally, but for a,
I believe they were, and I wasn't involved in that part, but I believe they were just basically transplanting what already exists there. But if you want something changed, I'm sure that.
this says they're going to be added to the lawn area. Like, it makes it sound like they're new without looking at the existing landscaping
And I
plan.
don't know my plants well. Are these the ones that have the little purple? I can't tell you what one looks like exactly. Sorry, I don't pretend to have a green thumb. So I can do chicken, but plants,
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's a really good idea
Okay.
because it spreads like a weed.
No problem.
Like, it goes everywhere. And I can't really see maintaining it, and you don't maintain it like grass. So, I mean, if they want something to be a plant like that, I would think there would be a better choice.
Do you have an alternate you'd like to see?
I was trying to think while we were talking. I mean, it's a perennial, and essentially it's a green plant, and then it dies off, and you have to cut it back. I can't think of anything off at the top of my head.
Okay. I can easily take it to the people who are going to have the plants installed, and I'm sure that that can be altered. I don't think we're overly particular about what plant it is. We just want to meet the requirements and obviously have aesthetics to it, so.
Right. Mint tends to be messy.
Okay.
Like, it just goes everywhere. And like I said, it kind of looks like a weed. And unless you're really wanting to attract cats to your business, I think there could be something that could, serve the purpose that they're trying to accomplish that would also be more controllable. Like, my mom, for example, would just look at that and be like, oh my God, right? Because it would just be messy as far as she would be concerned.
Okay.
Did we have any outcome on, unless I missed it, on the site coverage?
So Here's kind of the problem I'm running into with answering this on the spot. I do have the 2014 original staff report, so I thought, no problem, I can go back to the site coverage evaluation, but the 2014 report doesn't help me. It just says that, the site coverage maximum is 65%, and the existing restaurant, the way it's proposed, is 77%. So it doesn't have the breakout of the land area. And then really what I put in front of you tonight is the landscape plan. It's not the site plan, so I can't pick up a land area that's mentioned on here. So I would almost need to further find the actual site plan for the project and secure what the land area is to figure out if it's even moved up an additional 1%, so.
I mean, like, are you really confident without doing that, that it would not be 3%, more than 3% more?
Yes.
Okay. You said that like a question, but
Yes.
you're confident.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Lewis?
Looking at the scale and just doing some quick math, this is 98,000 square feet, so we're looking at less than 0.5%.
Okay.
448 square foot patio, so I think you're okay.
Thank you.
Did you find that on the landscape plan?
No, but there's
Oh.
there's a scale here, it's just quick math, but it's
Math.
not, it's immaterial.
Yeah, it's not quick math for me tonight, clearly.
Thank you very much for saving my life.
And Ms. Kirkemeyer, if I recall, another basis for the bonus is outdoor seating for restaurants such as this, is that correct?
Right, so that's one of the considerations. So I think Sherry's point was just that she wanted to make sure it didn't go past the 15% additional allowance, but now we
That-
found out that's,
That was my biggest point, but I view, what's an outdoor seating area? Like, when we're talking about putting outdoor seating areas in a large development, for example, like the Meridian, where it's like a hangout area that's like for pedestrians and stuff like that, I view that completely differently than I do a fast food outdoor seating area. I don't view that as an amenity for landscaping bonus coverage purposes.
How has the demand been for your outdoor seating?
When the weather's nice, it's usually at capacity. So even today, we had people request us to open tables at 48 degrees when I looked. But if that's where they want to sit, then we'll let them dine there. So
That's why you're trying to expand the outdoor seating.
exactly, when the weather is appropriate for dining outside, there's not seating available. So
Mr. Nurnberger?
What kind of materials are you going to use? Is it just concrete that you're putting in?
as far as I know, yes, it should match
It's not
exactly
a
what already
concrete
exists.
block or anything like
No,
that?
the current patio is just concrete as well. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Moore?
Notice there's some traffic bollards in front of the few parking spaces. Does that match the northern side of the property? Or
Yeah.
is there a heightened curb protecting the existing outdoor?
So it is the same as in front of the current patio, because there are already parking spaces in front of where we're trying to put the existing patio, so it won't change anything with that. I don't know if that answers your question, but if you look at our front door, there are already handicap spaces and a couple of additional ones where the existing patio is. And then there are the mobile pickup orders and some other spaces in the pit that exist already, and then the landscaping is front of that, that's where we'll do it. So I assume they'll put up the same fencing and other materials that are along the right side as well, so.
Briefly, Lisa, is this fire chief's approval to make sure that there's a public safety review of those parking spaces right in front of the new seating area?
no,
Nobody?
no. And it's not anything different than what
bollards
the
are.
original.
Which one of those was a plan? So to finish out, so as long as those safety bollards are at the end of the parking spaces, then just want to make sure that that isn't overlooked.
Further questions from commissioners? Anyone in the audience would like to address the commission on this application, Chick-fil-A? If there's no further discussion, we'll entertain a motion. Ms. Bilderback?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of this application with the condition that any of the moved plant materials, should they die within the first year, well, really, or later, should they die, that they need to be replaced. and that also that the petitioner choose a less aggressively seeding, spreading plant than catmint. And I'm not going to specify what that perennial would be and leave that up to the applicant to work with staff. And those would be the only two conditions, and that we recommend approval with that to the Board of Aldermen. And as an aside, I would just note that I don't see catmint on the original landscape application.
Okay, that was a motion?
Yes.
All right, so it's my understanding that the motion is to recommend approval with two conditions, one being dead plants need to be replaced, and that the applicant work with staff to identify an alternative to the proposed catmint.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second? All right, motion fails for lack of a second.
What do you guys like, catmint?
Yes, Ms. Hanson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move that we approve the application as submitted, or recommend approval to the Board of Aldermen without condition.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sherry Bilderbeck,
No.
Mike Navaza,
Yes.
Jennifer Hansen,
Yes.
Rebecca Jacobs,
Yes.
Clint Lewis,
Yes.
Jeff Moore,
Yes.
Paul Moran,
Yes.
Don Denver is yes, Lisa Shirley,
Yes.
Tom Shipley.
Yes.
Motion passes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Nuremberger. And Mr. McCarty, you can work with Ms. Kirkmeyer for the next step of the Board of Aldermen.
Thank you.
Thanks for saying what
My pleasure.
Okay, I see no
whatever it is they
alder
say.
people in the audience, so there's no aldermanic report. City planners report, Ms. Kirkmeyer?
So you like the chicken? Sorry. What it looks like.
Oh, yes. Okay, so, actually, I guess we'll just go ahead and go over this. Now, I wanted to give you an update of the comprehensive plan and also look at scheduling some upcoming meetings to review the draft. First, I can report that I got a new draft of the plan delivered today from the consultants. I have not had an opportunity to look at it. As far as I know, it's a complete draft of the plan. There were some sections that were not part of the original draft submittals, so it does look like they've included those items. And so with that, I think it's ready probably for distribution to the Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee and the P&Z. So talking to the consultants and trying to figure out the rest of the timetable for the review and adoption of the plan, I would propose that we would meet with the consultants on Wednesday, November 29th. That would have been your date had you moved something to site plan. That would have been your site plan subcommittee date. So I don't know. I had sent out an email to both the CPAC members and the P&Z, and it seemed like that was a night where most could attend. So does that still sound good that we will schedule that and have the consultants come into town that evening and work us through the plan?
Yeah, it's mine. We're set for 6 o'clock that night.
Okay,
Is that right?
6 o'clock, and then that would be the only item then that would be on the agenda, so. And then what would be proposed after that review, then you could submit any type of comments to myself or to the consultants. Again, I'll get the comp plan distributed Tuesday of next week. I was planning on giving you all an electronic copy and then a hard copy. Is that what the commission would prefer? Okay. So you can read through it before we meet on the 29th, and then after the 29th and the presentation by the consultant, go ahead and if you've got additional comments or notes, get those back to myself or the consultant. And then on December 13th, which would be your regular scheduled meeting, I would propose that we would have our open house. It may be the only public open house we need, or it at least would be our first one, that we would have that on that day from like 4 to 6, invite the public in, and we'll have boards and some other things, the sub-area plan maps and things for the public to look at. And then I would propose that we would schedule a public hearing for that night for the comp plan review at 6 o'clock. And then if we have any development applications that get submitted, we would just have our regular scheduled meeting then still that night also. So that's starting to really fill up. So I guess I just need to know if you think that works for your schedules, or if we need to try a different approach, but that's kind of what I've worked out so far with the consultants, so.
December 14th would be the other meeting.
The 14th, or, I was thinking it was the
14th.
13th.
Wednesday is the 13th.
13th is
Okay.
Wednesday.
13th.
So, yeah, that would,
Any objection to that schedule?
No objection, but I kind of throw my voice to the previous request on the subcommittee meetings, if they could start at 7.
Okay.
Don't expect resolution, but just kind of thought I'd,
Yeah.
6
Put my-
o'clock works a lot better for me and a couple other people. I don't know, what does everybody else think about that? 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock?
6 works for me.
Yeah, 6 is fine.
Okay. Are you guys not able to make it?
oh, no, I make it work, I just drive fast, down 40 from downtown. It's just come up with, Hart's mentioned it,
Yeah.
I think you've mentioned it, so.
Yeah. It is
We
what
get-
it is. I just like to,
Yeah.
when this brings it up every month.
Okay. All right, the schedule then works from Ms. Kirkemeyer? Okay, good. Any questions for Ms. Kirkemeyer?
Oh, one more thing. I'm fine with it just electronically. Save some
Okay.
trees and,
I want a hard copy to mark up.
So if anybody doesn't want a hard copy, he's more green than other people, let Ms. Kirkemeyer know. Okay, November 29th, we're set for 6 o'clock for the comp plan meeting. Rationale, Ms. Kirkemeyer, you can handle for these 3 items.
yes.
Any other business this evening? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.